Good morning. It is I don't know what date it is, 17th of January. I feel like the month is getting away from me. This is our first Ask Me Anything of 2024, and I keep writing 2023, Keith. What am I going to do with myself?
I know. Always happens for the first month.
Well, thank you for anyone that's watching this either live or after recording. We are live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And our Ask Me Anything guest for Founders Pack today is Keith Lam from Rebel Go-to-Market. So Keith, thanks for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me on. It was great.
No problem. All right. So for people that don't know, I guess, who is Keith and then what is Rebel?
Sure. I'm Keith Lam. Rebel Go-to-Market. We are a fractional marketing and sales consulting firm. So we come into we really focus on startups, B2B technology startups. And we come in and help you with any kind of go-to-market stuff, marketing and sales, and putting processes in place. We're builders. So we build out your things for you to and test out to go-to-market. And then we actually hand it back over to you for your operations kind of thing. So we're there for as you need us, and we work with various companies, mostly, like I said, B2B technology companies.
Okay, great. So typically, like, how does someone find you and engage you, and what does that look like?
Yeah, you can find me. I'll have my email on there, and we're on the website, rebelgtm.com. We usually have a consulting. We talk about what you need and see if it's a good fit. We usually talk to people that are usually Series A to Series C, and depends on what they need. Some are just all over the place. They need everything. Other people, they just need a fix or a redesign, other stuff that we need to redo. Their target market or their messaging or positioning or things are not working. So we try to sort of hone in very quickly, narrow down things in a very quick and efficient manner, just get you going. Since all of us are like very experienced in startups, and we've worked with 10 to 20 different companies. I myself worked with a lot of different companies in startup land. So we love startups. We love to help them, and we love just watching them grow. It's great.
That is always fun. That's part of why we do this.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you put together like a little deck, and I think in it you kind of explain like what is go-to-market and what does that sort of engagement looks like. Maybe I can turn the controls over to you for a second, and we can just kind of talk through it. And I'm happy to kind of ask you questions as we go, because I think that might frame things a little bit. Because in case people don't know, like, what is go-to-market and why would I get a guy like Keith? Like, and then what sort of problems you solve. So let's add this here.
There you go.
And that's your company, Rebel GTM.
Yeah, Rebel GTM, and then my email's down here, and I have it at the end. So yeah, we're going to talk about go-to-market today. First, start with like, what's a life cycle of a startup, right? This is sort of what people want to think about startups and going all the way IPO, right? They're stealth, they're in the garage, they have no ARR, they're just working, they're doing proof of concept, the founders leading. Might be a technical team. You start hiring maybe a business development, test the market, try and go to product. Try to find the product market fit, and then just trying to get some customers from friends and family or influencers or your investors. If you have some, to try to get thing and just try to just narrow in on that fit, right? Make sure that product fits what your customer base is and what you want, and finding what your customer base is, right? So you get your initial Series A. You start building customers. You got beta customers. You might hire a VP of technology. You're going, a product person, engineering team. You're looking at 1 to 2 different segments of market. And that's when you start narrowing in on what is your messaging, what is your competencies, what your differentiation is. That's so important about positioning differentiation, because now we all know there's so much noise out there of everything. Like, oh, I do that, right?
All right.
The differentiation, the positioning is so hard nowadays, and trying to get people's attention, go beyond that. Oh, I save you money. So do I. So like, what can we go, right? Then, we work with companies that go B2C. We help with funding documents and move on to like, what are your core customers? What are your segments? What are you winning on? How do you deploy what's working in GTM, and then what adjacent segments you can go to, and building a plan to do that. And then as you get bigger, you use us for maybe more advising, and you hire your own people more or less. You hire a whole CXO C-suite. You hire a CMO. a whole team that runs the whole business as it goes D to D, and then you know, maybe your magic, you go to IPO and you know, go M&A and PE kind of thing. But you know what? A lot of people just sort of maybe, you know, go to B to C or D, and that's a good, you know, that there's nothing wrong with having a smaller company, right? So, you know, it depends on how big you are and your goals and your life goals. You know, it's like, you know, do you want to go IPO? Do you want, you know, try to get that? Because there are not very many that get that far. But there's a lot of companies in that, you know, maybe not, you know, either B to C space or D type of area. Maybe you didn't take any money. You don't take any money in VCs or PE. That's great. That's fine too. You know, just self-funded. That's always good too. So we have a lot of different companies, different ways, you know, depending on what they want to do. And this is what we see as a sort of life of a startup when people think of startup land, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll get into what is a go-to-market. So when you go to the internet, they say go-to-market is a plan to bring your new product or service to market. For a large company, yes, that is a go-to-market. I'll go-to-market for my new service, go-to-market for my new product. Marketing strategy is a plan to reach an identified market over time. Like this is my market, maybe life sciences companies, which we're working with right now. You know, that we want to look at life science companies, or we want to use that at hospital systems. That's your sort of market strategy. How do I get there, right? For startups, you have usually one product, right? Your branding's not out there. So to me, marketing strategy and go-to-market strategy is the same. You know, you're most trying to figure out how you get your brand and your product out to market in the most efficient and effective way at the lowest cost. So, you know, it's like you might think of marketing strategy later in life, right? But right now you're really trying to get this product out. You're building the product as we're looking at marketing fit and stuff. And then as you move it out, you know. And some of the highlights I talk about, you know, when we talk to startups, is like, you know, do you know your buyers? What data you have to have your buyers, right? Tell me some of those conversations you have. What does BD has found? What is your little testing with your alpha customers tell me? You know, that'll help us figure out what the need and the differentiation is for your company, right? Develop your messaging house. Messaging house meaning, you know, what is your overall message? What is, you know, 2 to 5 different messages or sub messages, either for use cases, for personas, or for your product. And what's your position? Why are you different from other people, right? What is your competition? Why are you different from them? You know, you really got to hone down that message, because all that messaging and positioning helps you figure out all the other stuff, your website, your data sheets, your other things that you need to, you know, talk to people from. You're talking to, you know, if you're enterprise sort of startup, you're selling the enterprises, you might talk to analyst, and you have to have a position that's different and that you're showing, right? And then we go into other stuff like ideal customer profiles, personas, use cases. You've probably heard a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then
you use it every day, probably, right? Like everyone's probably.
Everyone talks about that, you know, and you know, we come in and we want to do it fast, right? So it's like when I look at personas, I don't want to say, you know, I want to look at someone like Michael who has a beard, he's a certain age, he lives in Nashville. Some of that doesn't matter, right, to your startup. I don't care, right? So you got to really hone in on your personas on what specifically their needs are and their psychological. I look at psychological profile, right? What do they want to do, right? They have an old system they want to replace, but they're really status quo biased. They don't want to move, that kind of stuff. You know, how we move that kind of stuff. So we look at a lot of that. And we test we test the channels. After we have all the stuff ready, the messaging stuff, we test all the channels. Which one worked, you know? Does just lead generation, right? Email marketing, does that work? Does ads work? Does social media work? Does, you know, print work? You know, does sending little gifts work? Does events work? You know, right now, one company we're working for right now is called Clint Health, and they go to a lot of events, and they get a lot of leads and demand from events. So it's like, you know, and another company, we did events and no one shows up, right? So nothing. So it really depends on that market, right? So we try to, you know, gear toward what that market is, and then you got to create the metrics and the go-to-market process, right? You know, where you have to have a process that's reliable, that's repeatable, that has all the process in place for your marketing and sales. So there's a funnel, right? We talk about funnels all the time, and sales enablement, so that, you know, you build that out so that you can continue going on as your company grows and stuff, and then expand to different markets. So just some highlights from some stuff.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk about a couple of these before we go on. So, I don't know.
Sure.
Are you expand on these as we go, or what's the?
No, I can start give you an overview, but if you want to
Yeah.
expand on anything, yeah, Michael.
Okay. So let's start right with, like, for example, out of Founders Pack, we've created a product. We're maniacs. I'm a
Yeah.
maniac, which is we created a data product. So, we built up a lot of data on funded startups and high growth bootstrap companies, and then investors in those. And then, we started using that data to grow Founders Pack, but then we started selling it a little bit. So when you say research and know your buyers, like, what does that look like, and how do you actually know who your buyer is at some point? Like, at what point do you say, yeah, that's definitely our buyer?
It's like I always think, you talk to 30 different people and then try to get, it's like, hey, here's what we have. It seems like it fits for your investment profile and stuff. Is it the value to you, right? And I'll talk a little about, painkiller and vitamins. I love talking about painkiller and vitamins, right?
Okay.
Is this product a painkiller, right? A painkiller means you use it every day and you cannot live without it. Versus a vitamin is like, oh, it's something great, oh, it's good. I can use it because I have money. But when the push comes to shove and there's a downturn, I'm not losing, I stop using it.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense.
You always want to try to find that your product and fit into the painkiller. So it could be a product features, right? But a lot of it may be a product market, right? So it's like you find your buyers. Like I use I do a lot of hiking, right?
Okay.
And then there's some hiking shoes that are like $300, right? I don't do that much hiking. It's like, right? So like someone who's hiking the Pacific Coast Trail, right, for 3 months, for that person, that hiking shoe, a $300 hiking is worth it. Right?
Totally.
It's a painkiller for them. For me, it's a vitamin. I can show off because I have a $300 hiking shoe, but I don't need it, right? So it's like sometimes the product is not the problem for your painkiller, it's the market you're going to, right? So you got to focus on the right market and the buyer. So it's like, oh, that buyer for that hiking shoe for $300 is going to use it because he really needs a high performance, well-rounded that can last him 3 months on the trail, hiking 20 miles a day, right? That kind of thing. So that's how you find your buyers. I mean, you got really just sort of dig in a lot of questions. It's like, why do you use it? Well, what would you do if you didn't have it? What would you do, if we take it away from you tomorrow? What would you do if this fails? Figure that out. That's important.
So like for, our journey in 2023 sounds like it mirrors that, right? So it was like, we created some UI in January. We were kind of manually doing things that don't scale by delivering data to people between January and April. April 25th, we had scoped out and started coding something simple, which was a data marketplace, ops.ai, right? And then, we had some pretty good code in June 25th, June 30th. July, August, we're like fixing bugs. And then September, I was like, okay, it's never going to be perfect. And we started using our tool to cold outreach, and we did like 100 onboarding calls.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because I was like, and I think out of that, what we learned was, okay, well, there's still some stuff that bother me. It's stuff that bothers them. How do we fix that stuff? So it was like, all right, here's a little bit of a list to make the product better.
Yeah.
And so this kind of sounds like what you're talking about, like you were gathering feedback through interviews. In your case, you suggested 30, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so then now we're like, okay, we've got a product. How do we develop messaging? Do you have like a framework for that, or?
Yeah, we have a framework. We look at what you guys done, right? So those 100 customers you got, I mean, first off, congratulations. Do not make a perfect product and then try to make a perfect product. Never do that. Never do that. I've talked to some startups.
It's so emotionally hard, though.
It is. It's your baby, right? You don't want to send the ugly baby out there, but you send
just
the
a little ugly. It's not really ugly, but like the wart, there's a little wart.
Put lipstick on the pig and looks a little better, and then you got to figure it out, right?
And other people look at it and go, "It's so good, but," and I'm like, "Yeah,
hey,
on the but."
That is great feedback. If you can win those guys, right, then they'll tell you more and more on what they need and what they want, right? And but if they took it up, right, and then you figure out, okay, then it's like, why do they buy it? Right? What is your message? Why are you different than other people? So what makes you different? And that's how you get that main message for your company. It could be a very like visionary message, right? I want to democratize data for all investors from startups, right? Or it could be very simple message. We provide the most accurate real-time data for startups or something like that. And then from there, you can break it into use cases. What does people in VCs want to use it for? What do people in banking want to use it for? And then have different messages behind the use case. And that builds your sort of message map, and then everything else can build upon that. So you can build use cases on your websites, or solutions, or what your platform does, or what features fit with what. Or it builds this little house that we call it, right? The top of the house is your main message, and you have 3 different pillars or 4, depending on how many things you want to talk about. Proof points that go below it, and reference of customers, all that stuff that you can build upon. It's like, hey, we say this, we have proof points that support that kind of thing.
Interesting. And when you're doing this with someone that's engaged you, like, are you building like a playbook, or how do you deliver this?
Yeah, we do a lot of like brainstorming session with executives. We study the company, we look at all the stuff they've written, then we sort of narrow in on what the messaging is, and then we go like really deep with all the executives. And I'll tell you, that's the most frustrating and hard thing to do. Because you sit in a room for an hour or two arguing over words and stuff, and then we like it's I enjoy it, I don't mind, but it's like if you're sitting there going, God, I just want to get over with, right? But it's very important, because you got to thing, and then you build it, and sometimes it might change, right? You get more customers, you might find a market that you didn't know existed. Okay.
Well, we might be in that. So that's really interesting you say that, because part of one of the features we've built is like an AI co-pilot. I've always had this idea of valet, because as much as I build this, and then you need this tool and this tool to build a process. Yeah. So for example, if I look at a job function, we've been talking a lot about SDRs and maybe BDRs, and they have certain problems where that whole position is under threat. Why? One, consistently we hear these problems they have. They can't send enough emails. Our main domain's getting blacklisted. They're spending all their time researching and setting up automations and asking sales ops. We've created this whole other department called sales ops to try to do the little nitty gritty stuff for them. And it's like, wow, that's crazy, right? Or could you just tell a robot to do it? Yeah. But we're like, wait, is that really the product?
Yeah, is that the product? I mean, it's just it's they always say, right? Fail fast.
Fail fast.
Fail fast, right? Try it. Yep. See if it's good, And then you're right. Your messaging will change from what you have as a marketplace versus you have a product now that's directed toward BDRs or SDRs, right? And then we have a different positioning, because there's some other products out there that are being competitive, right? So you got to look at that messaging maybe a little different than the main messaging. Then you got to go, okay, does it fit within my overall messaging again, or then change that? So it's a constantly evolving, right? Every company, even a large company, evolve their messaging. I mean, look at Facebook, right?
Good point.
Yeah. And then they had this, metaverse, and now they're changing again because that didn't work out.
Like, that was dumb. Yeah. Although it's really interesting, like on a side note, I was walking my dog outside here. I'm in Costa Mesa right now, and there were 2 homeless people, I would call them. They were, doing whatever. And then next to them was another guy with his bike and his homeless stuff. And he had a headset on, an Oculus headset.
Oh, really?
He was like I'm like, but he's clearly not, like, this is his house. Like, he lives here. But he had the Oculus headset. I was like, well, maybe this will work.
That's funny.
Where did he get this? How did he charge it up? It was a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So then, I like this third bullet point too. And I got off a Zoom call with someone, and we were talking about how their clients don't know who their clients are. So developing like ideal customer profile, like, what is your process to do this?
That's a bunch of data. It's a bunch of who have you talked to, what you do with customer profile, who have you sold to? What is their range, right? Are you looking at small, medium-sized business or large enterprises? That's of your vision also, but it's also what have you sold into, right? What has worked, right? And then start narrowing into a profile. Well, we only look at retail business that are $1 to $3 million. We're owner operated, that kind of stuff. So we know exactly sort of that provides you a TAM, right? It provides you how big a market you're looking for, and then you might expand or reduce it depending on that. And then you go into personas where a small company, you're just talking to the owner, talking to the CEO, right? For small, if a large company, you're talking to maybe a vice president. If it's like IT, you have vice president IT. But then you got to make sure the CFO understands your value. Then you make sure the users understand your value. You got all these other people around that your persona has to fit so that you can know what to say and what to sell to through your messaging. And that'll be a little different between the personas. And then some cases are very much different use cases. So each use case has a different type of positioning because of that use case. So it really depends on the company and how they approach the market and how they want to do it. Ideal customer profile is always needed. Personas, I would say, do the minimum you can to understand that persona and then dig into that persona. Like, what is their psychological needs? Are these people usually, they're like, they're sitting in a large company, they just want to not rock the boat. So how do you move them, right? Other companies are, they want to be the guy, right? They want to be a guy that innovates. So there's a different persona. And then you got to, feed them the right messages for them to help sell you, right? And who's your customer? Who's your advocate in the company? Who is in the company that you are going to make your champion, that he will sell within your company? That kind of thing. That's the persona we're looking for.
So it's like, title, geography, company industry, company size, hypothesis.
Yeah. Like the customer profile is like company size, locations, and then you'd say, oh, where are they looking for information, all that stuff, that what groups are in too. So that's part of the personas. Like, how do you reach them? That's part of it, right? That goes down to the how you developing the marketing channels.
Okay.
Persona, right.
And then I'm trying to think of, highlights. Like, are you highlighting what problem they have, what their motivators are? Like, are there kind of bullet points around that?
Oh yeah. Like, what are their business needs, right? And then we always look at I always look at what their personal needs are, right? What are they looking to achieve, right? Do they want to be the star? And then that is a motivation. Do they, like you said, with a very large company, they probably have a huge status quo bias. They don't want to rock the boat. Anything they do is risky, and you're a startup and you're competing against Google, you always say, right? You buy IBM, you won't get fired. So like, same thing as Google, right? You buy Google, you won't get fired. If you buy some startup, it's way riskier, right? So you got to make sure you find the right persona and try to sell them on the trust of the startup, and then give them things to trust you for them to go. So you got to build that, needs of the thing, where they look for information, where they agree to, who they reference to. Like, we're in a retail business, small SMB retail software company, right? Mm-hmm. The best channel we found was references. They would always call other people in their network. And then if we get on network and they trust us, then we get in, right? That might be the best way,
Amazing. Okay, great. That's super helpful. All right. And then when we say develop and test marketing channels, I guess the question is, like, how do you determine what are the potential channels, and then how do you test them?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different channels, right? We talked about, we can do direct email, right? BDRs, direct emails. We can do social. We can do, ads. We can do webinars like this. We can do content. Content strategy has been huge now. Unfortunately, it seems like people don't read as much anymore. So maybe there's video, YouTube, right? And then that really gauges from your personas, your customer profile, where they go, where they look for information, right? Some people, will read a lot. Like we're working with Clint Health. They're all like life science companies and hospital. They like to read. They like paper. They like to read. They're used to reading stuff. So white papers work, events, because they have time off from what they're doing. That kind of stuff. And then you come to a company that is like SMB. He's doing 100 different things at once. So you need short messages, and then it's like, where do I go? Is it Facebook? for a thing? Is it LinkedIn? You know, is it Google? Google ads are great if you can get it right, and you get the SEO guy, SEM guy that does really well to get your name out there. But you got to get that differentiation that's also match that with the keywords, right? That kind of thing. So you test different channels. You see what channel works as you first start, and then test it. Doesn't work, you pull it. I've done stuff where we did ABM, didn't work, we pulled it. We did other things. I test different channels a lot.
Yeah, and I would argue like you would use something like Ops to pull the data sets around the ICP.
Yeah.
And cold outreach on LinkedIn or email is usually the cheapest, right? It's like the lowest.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
But obviously ads can work, but you can also blow a lot of money on ads and not getting.
You blow. we had one CEO actually clicked something on Google ads and he blew like 10,000 in a month. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's crazy because I've seen people that are like, oh yeah, we were spending 40 grand a month. How many leads? 0. I'm like, what?
It's not working. You better do something else.
And what's crazier is a lot of those companies are funded companies, and I've heard this story over and over.
Yeah.
Where the VC will actually like push them to spend money on PR and ads, and they're not getting anything out of it. And those are very complex. Like I find them very complex. I think any channel is very complex, but
yeah,
like the cost of not getting it is really high.
Yeah, I mean it's no problem. It's really messaging, right? Messaging, positioning, marketing channel, and the persona. So you gotta get all those right to do it well. So it's if your VC tells you a certain thing, they might have experience in certain things, but they haven't experience in your type of company, your type of market, your type of product, right?
I think at 40 grand, it's not working.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
Get customers.
Yeah, I know. If you test 40 grand, that's a lot of that's wasting a lot of money. I would test much lower level to see if it works in the messaging.
I think so. I don't know who said it. I'm sure a lot of people have said it, but in a sense, a startup is an experiment or a series of experiments. So
it is. It's
like, I guess we just got. And sometimes emotionally, again, that's hard when you're like you've got to accept that and maybe treat it that way is the way to approach it, right?
Yeah. You treat it as a startup. Failure is the best learning experience you get, right? What does not work. Then you start working on what does work. You're not gonna hit home run every swing, like they say, right?
All right. So and then what sort of metrics and like processes are you talking about here?
It's like, first off, you got to make sure you have a funnel, right? To figure out what, if it's a PLG, it's a different type of funnel. It's sort of a, you get the person in, then you follow them through the journey and match them, and how do you market them through that journey so they continue using it. For a standard business funnel, it's from the lead, from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead to, opportunity, that kind of stuff, right? You got to sort of match the funnel. What are the limits of the funnel? Where does the funnel end? Who does what, right? Marketing does this, BDRs does this, sales does this. Who does what? What other things do you need within that funnel? Do I need, a case study here? Do I need a demo here? Do I need all that stuff that needs to develop for that funnel? Metrics, there's vanity metrics. Hey, I got so many impressions. Woohoo. None of them became leads. It's like, I'm always like, I always look at the close first, right? If you close one, that means something's working, and then work back from there.
That's a good point. Yeah. Where did this deal come from?
Where does this deal come from? How did it get to us, right? Is it multi-channel? Did it get from events? Did it get from an ad? Did it get from LinkedIn? Did it get from direct and email, right? That kind of stuff. And you'll start seeing patterns a lot, It's, nowadays it's so great. We've got so many marketing analysts to look at, but make sure your metrics actually align to your goals. If you're a growth, or if you want, impressions, you want people going to your website a lot more, and at some point they'll buy, you can. If you are looking for people coming to your website, sign up, and then they drop off, there's a problem. So you got to look at that kind of stuff. So make sure you get your metrics right as you move along the funnel, whatever funnel you're using.
Love it. Yeah. And so my first book was called Automate and Grow. And really, you're kind of describing what I kind of advocated, which is like, you need like a traffic and conversion plan, you need a sales playbook, and then a customer success roadmap, right? It's like, how do I deliver what I sold?
Yep.
And I love your approach here where you say, well, what is this, what are the conversion points and how do we measure that that's happening?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly, we develop, sales playbooks, we develop, BDR playbooks, we develop, help them with customer success, right? Because you sell them, there's an upsell usually in the end. So you gotta flow that marketing throughout the whole thing. It's not just one time. It's not, I just hate the old way where, oh, I'm marketing. Hey, I gave you a lead. I threw her over the fence. I'm done.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and even like just giving the product, like, or the service, like, did they get what they bought?
Yeah.
Did we build them?
Yeah. I mean,
did they pay?
They pay. Yeah. Do they continue paying? Well, they dropped off after 1 month. Why? Get them back, and those people are going to be your loyalists, right? The people are going to talk about you, right? The references. I mean, if you can get and create advocates on the back end, you'll help feed the front end, right?
Is there anything we didn't touch on that bullet point that you wanted to?
No, I think sales enablement, we just make sure that, the go-to-market plan includes enablement for the product, enablement for sales, that it flows through the whole thing, that there is continuous. Everyone should work together. Go-to-market team includes, from marketing, sales, BDRs, all the way to customer success, so that it's a good flow. It's hard. Startup, you got 1 or 2 people doing 100 different things, right? So you got to just sort of focus on one thing at a time and then start moving it along.
So I think, part of that, I guess it depends on the age of the company, but it seems like, I don't know, just reading, who was it posted this? I can't remember now. What's her name? Jen. She talks about how founder-led sales, essentially.
Yep.
So do you have like a metric for that? Like, at what point does the founder build BDRs, SDRs, or are they always like the head of sales? Like, which kind of your feeling on that?
No, we always talk about, when do you let your baby go, right? Founder-led sales, right? A founder knows it all, right? When do you start using BDRs? Is that you distill the founder's information into a messaging, into your positioning, into your sales enablement, into your needs documents, all that stuff that we just talked about, right? If you distill it all out, that we can actually train someone to do the job you're doing, then that's when you start hiring BDRs. I always talk about sales and marketing first. I always think marketing first. You got to set up that process, because salespeople get so frustrated when, I just come in and I got to sell. Oh, here's some decks. Go. It's like, you're gonna fail. Your company's gonna fail. That sales guy's gonna fail. And he's gonna leave. You got to set them up for success. And it's like, and distill everything to founders. If the founder has made, I would say, 10 to 20 sales already, start thinking about downloading that data into actual documents and processes.
That makes sense.
You can train BDRs.
That makes total sense. Yeah. I think I've slowly started to do that. Like, hey, like, this is what worked and didn't work in this call. These are the objections that I had. Yeah, these are problems that they pointed out in the product versus a competitor. So like, I think that's really helpful because otherwise it's in your brain, right?
Yeah, it's in your brain. That's the hardest part, right? It's like they go, oh yeah, about this, right? It's iterative, right? You keep learning, and then you keep getting better and better,
Super interesting. What is your, we're using a bunch of acronyms here, for example, BDRs, SDRs. We didn't really use the AE version. Like, what are those job functions to you? Like, how would you define the difference between them?
I think SDRs, sales reps, and then business development reps. To me, they're sort of the same. They're the people that do one of the hardest jobs in sales, right? They're cold calling, they're cold emailing, they're creating messages that marketing has told them that might work and trying it out on the different personas. So that's why you got to have a good BDR playbook, right? You got to have a way to say, these are the messages for these types of personas. These are for these types of personas. Here's all the assets you can send them in your BDR, sequence, right? Here's a case study. Here's a video. Here's all this stuff be made for them to be successful, right? So that's sort of the first funnel, right? They're filling the funnel for SDRs after leads come in from MQLs, marketing qualified leads, to sales qualified leads, and then they set the APs, appointments for the account executives, the salespeople to do the demos, do the other stuff, and try to close them. So I see sort of that funnel. That's a traditional funnel, right?
Yeah.
In a PLG kind of funnel, it's like, you're trying to get demand. You're going to get people to come to that website to sign up. And then you got to sort of watch them and market them through that whole journey to make sure they're using it. And like, hey, why aren't you using it? We haven't seen you for a while. We've seen this in a lot of different companies, right? A lot of retail companies. Hey, we haven't seen you for a while. Come on back, right? That kind of stuff to try to get them going, get them top of mind so they continue to use your product as it goes through. And if they're not, there might be maybe your vitamin, not a painkiller. That's data you can use to change it, right?
And I just realized we're using another acronym that we should probably just define. So PLG is product-led growth. So this would be like a self-service software as a service application or a marketplace, something where the user registers, signs up, and they do or do not use it. And that's what you're trying to track and figure out.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So that's super helpful. And in those cases, like, I guess you can still have sales, but then there's other things you got to worry about, right? When you have a product that's supposed to be self-serve, and we're kind of seeing that where we're white gloving or we're hand holding people while we iron out the product so that it is self-serve at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I was with one of the company that we went from a business to business sales cycle because it was hard to get a PLG going. PLG takes time, right?
Right.
So you need money, right? So you guys start with B2B sales, direct sales, all the BDR, all the stuff to try to sell some product, get some money in, and they start building their PLG motion. When you start building a PLG motion, your website is your product. Your website, your product, there's no difference, right? So your website has to be good, has good UI, all stuff, and then it took them a while to build that out. But they saw it as a separate stream than their business to business. So they had actually two streams going. And then they're still going two streams. They wanted to move all the way to PLG, with a lot of content, a lot of developer stuff, but it's hard. It's a long cycle,
I feel better hearing that because I think in my head, I'm thinking, maybe I'm weird, but I think that we need sales. Like, I think we need some sort of an onboarding, a discovery to figure out, hey, what are you doing? Why did you respond to this to set up a call?
Yeah.
And what features are important.
And that all leads back into PLG if you're going PLG, right? It all leads back to it. It's like you learn so much from that.
Because I don't feel like we're at a point yet where I feel like until, that's why I talk about Valet as might be our product.
Yeah.
Because if one of the propositions we have or one of the assumptions is we're being asked to be expert SaaS users.
Yeah.
And in order to do my job as an SDR or BDR or whatever, even a founder, I'm being asked to be the button pusher in a cage, right? Or I think the promise of generative, what I'm noticing, and this is because we've all accepted Chat GPT works now, is, well, I just want to tell the thing like Star Trek, make it work. So I think until that happens, you got to handhold them.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. You get to this point where B2B sales nowadays, everyone hates salespeople.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. You want to talk to salespeople because you want to close it. You have to talk to them and close the deal to get the contract.
Get in my sales process. Get in, Keith. Get in my sales process. It's like you're almost navigating the sales process to get to the product.
I know you do. It's just.
Isn't that weird? Like, I noticed that with a certain large CRM company that I've dealt with a lot with because I'm a Salesforce guy, right? Like a Salesforce consultant.
Yep.
And even I'm almost preparing the client to say, well, this is going to be their sales process. Like, we just want to get to, terms, and we want to get to features and price.
Yeah.
And we have to navigate it to get to there. I can't just go sign up and do it. And they're like, like, so it's like, isn't that weird? It's so funny. Like, it kind of.
But you bring a good thing, Michael. It's like the way the customer wants to be sold has changed, right?
Yeah.
And you shouldn't fit them into your sales process. If they want to jump to sales, if they want to jump to signing up online, and you can't allow them to do that, and it works, you got to change your process, right? Not all
You would-
process. Like, we've been going, it's the sales process for so long, and from Henry Ford trying to sell cars, right?
Yeah.
It changes, right? It's like people just are sort of sick of all the sales sometimes. It's like, hey, I just want to see it. I want to buy it. But, it's like, oh, I have questions. Then now what?
Well, that's a good point, because like I find that organizations like that have people that sell, and then they have people that are experts, and the people that sell are like a barrier to get to the expert. And it's like it's weird, right? Like it's like,
right.
I have a very complex product. Do you know anything about it? Like the one you're selling? No. We gotta prepare you to go to the expert. Like, wait.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
That's
you almost, they want to
That's an
talk
extreme example, but
yeah, no, it's true, right? If you're selling, like, especially if you're selling developers or technical people, right? They never want to talk to sales guys. They want to talk to the sales engineer, right?
Yep.
They want to talk to the guy
Exactly.
who knows in and out the product,
Expert.
what they can do, and then he's your best salesman for that, right? So it might be a different flow for those people versus like a business person that are used to, or procurement or other stuff, right?
It makes me realize more, because every time I go through this in my head, I'm like, but that's the promise of generative. Like all this generative stuff is making you pictures and writing for you, but I just want my generative to do all the stuff I want. I don't want to, I just want to know, yes, the answer, but then do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of, right?
That's true. I know. As long as it doesn't have hallucinations, then you have problems.
Yeah, well, that's a valid issue, right? Like, and for people that don't know, like hallucinations are, oh, this is right. It's very authoritative. It tells you that this is how something works, but it's not really true.
Not real. I mean, yeah, I have a friend who's was studying behavioral finance, which was one of I love behavioral finance. And he was like, oh, cite me articles, right? And they had all these articles with links that did not work.
Oh,
they just made them up.
That's weird. So yeah, so just to extrapolate that, like let's say, you imagine you go into Chat GPT and then you go to Bard, right?
Yeah.
And you say to Chat GPT, how does this software work? Yeah. And it actually doesn't know, but it tells you anyway.
Yeah.
And it makes it up. And then you go to use it, and that's a hallucination, which is it's speaking very authoritatively as a chat bot that talks to an LLM, but the LLM has misinterpreted it or is wrong.
Wasn't trained on it, right? It wasn't trained on it. So
it's not giving you
kind of good.
So that's really interesting. Yeah, because I find that too. Like, we're training valet, for example. It's an education for me because, a lot of our development's been here's UI and then here's code, right? And here's data and here's where we're hosting it. But now it's this extra element of, well, you asked for these words and you meant that you wanted this thing, but I gave you this thing.
Yeah.
So like, how do we fix that? But it's almost like we're going through that game, like the campfire game in a sense. With salespeople, right? Like, well, pick your poison here. I don't know. Yeah. Who was right? Yeah, it's really interesting. All right, cool. Is there anything else that you want to touch on this, or is there any other slide that you want to?
No, I was going to go into some of the, if anyone had any questions. If not, we can talk about some of the stuff.
Oh, look at this.
We came across some of the stuff. What about PLG? We talked about that, and we talked about painkiller and vitamins. We talked you need sales and marketing team first. I would go for marketing first, develop stuff, and then go to sales, because you're wasting your sales time, and they'll be very frustrated,
Yeah, if you just throw people in there with no messaging, no positioning, no ideal client profile.
Yeah, they're just gonna they can build it up themselves, There are, I must say, you get really good lone wolf guys in sales that will sell anything, right? But if you're building a business, that'll be hard.
Yeah, good point. So I will send you a copy, of course, of Form Your Own Pack as a thank you for this. In Form Your Own Pack, I write a little, obviously, about, hey, let's reimagine cooperative startups as a pack, right? Form your own pack or your own wolf pack. And part of it is there's research out there, like we talk about lone wolves versus pack wolves, and about 15% of wolves are lone wolves. And the problem is they struggle and they starve.
Yeah.
And they have a hard, sometimes they go off and they mate and they form a new pack. But generally, like, lone wolves aren't long for the world.
No, startups, is about just working with other people, right? To build something that's great. You got to work with other people. I don't say about anything about technical founders, but sometimes they think they know more than they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta be open. You gotta be open. Yeah.
I go through this pangs because I'm like part business development, part technical.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could keep building this product so it's the better product. But I know at some point I better talk to somebody because I could go off like a bridge to nowhere and they don't want to give me money for it. And
get money for it. Yeah. If you're building something for your hobby and you want to just use it, great.
Oh my God.
Awesome. If you want to build a business, you better start talking to people.
Yeah. It's funny because I think you use the word hobby because I think there's I feel all of Web3 were a bunch of hobbyists, right? It was like great messaging and story, great community, grew through community, but the technology ain't great. Like it's not mature and it has promise, but it's never turned into an iTunes and an iPhone scenario.
Yeah.
Where I'm building on this tech stack. And I think that's made everybody a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Because it can't get any adoption. I think that's really interesting you use that word hobbyist. So that's always how I thought about it.
Yeah. And that's again, we go back to painkiller and vitamin, right? Hobbyists will take vitamins and they'll use it, but they're not going to use it a long time. It might, well, you've got a painkiller, I got to have this. I got to use this, right? And then, so especially you talk about last year. Last year was a tough year for startups.
Tough year.
And you find out, we talked to a company that says, we had to pivot because we were all very much business and we had to go to consumer area because we knew this was coming and we weren't that much of a painkiller for these businesses. So we had to sort of look at consumer side, which we were more a painkiller, and then to survive. It changes, right? It's like, I always say marketing, a lot of things marketing changes, the personas change, the market changes. You got to sort of move along. What worked, a couple of months ago might not work anymore, unfortunately.
I think I feel it, and I don't even know if people can articulate it themselves that there's change, right? And you're at that inflection point. It's like, well, what does it mean? And there'll probably be weird purchases, no decision, too many decisions, probably not enough decisions to fuel things because people are kind of like freezing in the face of new realities that maybe haven't fully evolved, right?
AI is a prime example, right?
It's totally
huge thing came out last year. AI, ChatGPT. Yeah. It's almost, it's what they call it. What's that guy they call it? It was it knew it was self what realizing, right? I was like, no.
Oh, self-actualization.
Self-actualizing.
Yeah,
go crazy. But then now it sort of died down a little bit, and they figured out, there's certain places where it's great, certain places not so good yet, but they're still building it. It's still in the infant phase, toddler phase.
We took two things that were useless. We took LLMs, which were stuck in universities and maybe large corporations. Guys like Google and Amazon and Facebook, LinkedIn, they all have used AI for a very long time. Like if you've used YouTube, it's like something like 21 AIs run YouTube. It's not people.
Yeah.
So then we took chat, which was terrible. Like chatbots have been around and we've all tried sticking them on our websites, and then we put them together and made a product. Yeah. And so I feel like people are understanding this is accessible. And I think that there's steps with the store, for example, create your own GPT, but that's still just leveraging LLMs. It's still leveraging NLP, stuff that's under the hood, but it's starting to be, but you can see in a year that has made more progress than Web3 in 10 years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
right.
I think it's going to get, I know it's going to get there. Like if you're a developer right now, it's like us, we built a SaaS, but with AI in mind. I think you keep asking yourself this question, what does AI, what part of this is AI?
Yeah.
And what is it? Why? Right. So I think people are going through that transition with SaaS.
Yeah, I think so too. But you got to really get down to the need of your customers, right?
Right.
There's a lot of companies that don't use AI, but maybe it's better. It's better for them. Maybe you don't need it right now, right? Maybe you need a more refined product that what you can use that's more trustworthy. Like if you're doing like patient health and stuff, yeah. Do you want patient health to look at all my records and tell me what's wrong with me without a doctor looking at it and prescribing medicines? No, I don't trust that.
That's an interesting example because, like, one of the startups that I've stayed in touch with is a company. They've rebranded to Sully, and I'm super interested in this company. They built their own medical LLM.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's, they've basically built a co-pilot for doctors.
Yeah, that's good.
And eventually it could replace a doctor's like taking in soap notes and diagnosing and prescribing.
Oh yeah.
I think eventually it could, but the approach they have is really smart. And I think the reason I bring it up is this whole go-to-market discussion is very, very important. I think where people are figuring out, what we think is AI is really, there's a platform and a number of platforms, right? There's models, and like, I think people have to get it, the go-to-market discussion wrapped around AI as the technology enabler of taking SaaS to the next level, right? Like, it's like, you're not just making screens and buttons, it's what role and what part of AI fits into this strategy, and will customers pay for it, and why?
Yeah. Yep. Just pay for a while. Yeah. That's the main thing.
And I think
if
this is
AI product, yeah. Make sure it really fits the need, not just because you're AI.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, the buzz will get the attention, but the reality of it is everything we just talked about, it's almost like every company needs to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, in the face of this, who is the ideal customer? What does AI solve for me or not? Or am I just doing it to say it's AI?
Yeah.
And which, is fair. And
yeah.
I think rapidly people are going to come to the conclusion that, okay, great, I'm making documents and I'm writing stuff. And if that's a big part of my life, Chat GPT as a product, because that's what it is, it's one product on GPT, which is this bigger development environment, has a use. But now what?
Yeah.
And that's where I think the opportunity for guys like us is. And that's what it's almost like I clued in, right? It's like, well, now I have a go-to-market for valet versus ops.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what am I doing that is going to make it so that one person has a co-pilot that makes them look like 10 or 100?
Yeah. Efficiency, right? It's improving efficiencies.
Easier, less education, less failure points, focus on outcomes, like whatever that thing is. And it's almost like we're going through that go-to-market thing we just described.
Yeah.
Around one product category. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Not to divert it, but I think that's the opportunity for anybody. Like, if you're an established company or not, if you have an established SaaS or not, you can ride the life cycle of that SaaS. But in light of this other thing, like, you almost need to have a new go-to-market effort.
Yeah. Yeah. You might have to rethink your messaging. What are you doing that has improved what you're doing right now, right? You might have a good market segment, you're going real well, but this AI is coming. Is it a competitor or is it a partner with you?
Right. And I think if you don't address it, it's someone else is going to do it. And
oh yeah, there's so many companies out there right now. They're doing this stuff.
Like, if you just think of your business and use the analogy of Google search versus ChatGPT, search gave you an approximation of answers.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, we think this is it. And here's a bunch of ads. And chat is, no, very authoritatively, this is the answer. There might be some hallucinations, but
no, it's like my friend, right? He searched for behavioral finance citations, right? Articles. And then ChatGPT gave him these fake ones, right? That look so real, but if you search in Google, you'll actually get real articles.
Yeah.
So Google was actually better for him than ChatGPT for his use, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. But I feel like, if you are already even an established software as a service, you need to go through that go-to-market process, essentially, to say what elements of AI could take my product so that it opens new markets, it entrenches the customer, it improves the customer experience. Because if I don't do it, somebody else will. And I don't want to be Google fighting ChatGPT and deciding, well, am I going to eat my own lunch to go to their model?
Yeah.
And they're kind of straddling. It's interesting to see because they're having to straddle between Bard and search. Well, we're mixing in AI results. I'm like, I don't get it. Like when I search, I don't get it. Like, what are you talking about? It's really interesting. I feel like every SaaS product's going through that right now.
Oh yeah, it's something you got to think about, you know, and again, just think about your customers first, because just because it's new, it's might not fit what your customers want, right? Yeah. I mean, we've run the companies, even my current company, they don't want, you know, medical, right? Some of the buyers don't want AI. They said they're afraid,
right?
Because they're using stuff, right? So
it doesn't mean it's not gonna. Somebody else won't do it to you, but
no, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, listen, Keith, I want to be respectful of your time. This has been super helpful. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure we do? I don't want to like.
No, it's just, you know, we talked about what we do in Rebel. You know, we're unlike other people. You know, we're really affordable expertise. You know, one thing we want to say is a lot of us have a lot of experience. You know, I got 20 years experience in business and marketing and other stuff. So that, you know, and a lot of startups. So it's like, you know, we come in, we can go much quicker than a lot of other people. And then we, you know, and it's a part-time kind of gig, kind of thing. So, and one thing I love, you know, as I'm talking to Michael, I love talking to, you know, startups. If you want to just, you know, reach out to me, let's have a chat in half an hour and see what you guys are up to, and, you know, any kind of advice I can give. I love doing it. I love learning about all these different cool things people are doing. You know, I talked to a company that was doing a mobile massaging, I think, or something like that. I was interesting. And then I talked to another company that, you know, that is doing supply chain for this thing. You know, it's like,
oh wow, okay,
yeah. So it's like there's a lot of different things that out there. People, great ideas out there, you know. But, you know, look at go-to-market. I can help them. You know, just give them advice and try to steer them in the right direction. So you want to contact me again. It's, you know, Keith.Lam at rebelgtm.com.
Amazing. All right. So we look forward to staying in touch with you. We'll make sure that we post this up, your contacts and YouTube and Twitter, etc., so that people can get in touch with you. And Keith, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed it. And let's make sure that we do it again.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Always great to talk to you. Cheers.